What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Arrow Season 8, Episode 6, Reset. So, pretty decent episode. The only problem I really have with it is just I've seen this type of, episode done before, and I've seen it done better and more unique and more different. This was pretty standard. You've got he's resetting every day whenever Quentin dies, and also he finds out Laurel is too, which I've seen that before as well. And basically, the whole point is just to accept the fact that Quentin is going to die because he needs to accept his fate that he's going to die. And I mean, yeah, it's pretty straightforward message for Oliver to get through. The fact that Lila is helping the Monitor to this extent, though, I am very surprised that she is so far down this rabbit hole of trusting everything he says. And I don't know, they seem to imply that he is good by the end of this episode, but I still don't know for sure, because Oliver seems to, piece together some information. It's like, oh, well, the reason he let Laurel basically say goodbye to Quentin and have her moment to, reconcile the things she didn't get to say is because she didn't betray Oliver. And that was kind of her test was, hey, you need to betray Oliver, and then she didn't. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, good. You weren't willing to betray somebody just to get your Earth back. So it shows you've grown. And so here's a reward. You get to say goodbye to, this kind of surrogate father who's actually your real father from a different Earth. But also, if you think about it, she had to watch him die again and again. And sure, she finally had that moment where she got to reconcile. But she still had to watch him die multiple times. So I don't necessarily call that a reward. So I don't know. It still seems very up in the air for me whether or not Mar-Novu can be trusted. But I guess we'll see. Maybe he can be, and this is all just kind of it's been sort of a false flag thrown up this season. It's like, oh, can we trust him? But ultimately we can. We had to get to the point where Team Arrow can trust him finally. But I don't know. It still seems very much like he's got some hand to play in all of this. But as far as this episode is concerned, it was nice to see Quentin back. Obviously they've been doing kind of the greatest hits of Arrow. Bringing back a lot of people. Still haven't seen Slade, although they are on Lian Yu at the end of this episode, which is very fitting since this is the last episode of Arrow before the crisis and before Oliver's probably going to be gone. So it does make sense that the last episode would be on Lian Yu because, of course, that's where it all started. So, of course, it's where it would end as well. But, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll see Slade here, hopefully, because, I love Slade. Slade is a great character. It's somebody that they haven't utilized enough, unfortunately, because I think the actor had some issues and didn't want to be on the show very much. But I don't know. I'd love to see at least one final scene with him because he is such a compelling character, and he's really the only one that made me care about this show because everything else was kind of crap for the most part. So we'll see what's happening here, but yeah, all in all, it was just a fairly straightforward episode. I've seen this done, in Groundhog Day, Edge of Tomorrow. They reference both of those. There's also a very, very good episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where they play with this concept, but it's done in such a different and unique way that I've not seen before that it was very entertaining. And then I actually have, even though I've not watched a ton of Supernatural, I've seen some episodes, and I did see one where they played around with this idea as well, where one brother is trying to save the other, but he keeps dying, and that resets the day every time. And it kind of, that one was more of a punishment because he had to watch him die over and over again, and that's kind of why I'm not sure if Mar-Novu is good because, like I said, you could see it as a reward for Laurel that she got to say what she wanted to say, but also it could be seen as a punishment because she got to watch him die over and over and over again. So, yeah, I will say, even though this season has been it's been okay, but it's not been fantastic, the one thing that's really kept me very engaged and intrigued, aside from the coming crisis, because that's really why I've come back to these shows, is to finish it out and see what the crisis is. But the one thing that's kept me really engaged for Arrow specifically this season is this whole story of can you trust the Monitor? Because they've done a very good job of keeping me guessing. I really, to this point, I still don't know. So Ooh, excuse me. But with all that being said, we are finally at the last episode of all these shows that led up to the crisis. Here we go. On to it. I'll see you in a sec. And now, episode 7, Purgatory. Um, I'm excited for the crisis. I'm so excited it's finally here. Oh, it felt like such a slog to get to this point, but probably because Batwoman was just so bad that it was difficult to get through those episodes. Supergirl was okay, not great, but not terrible. And then Arrow and the Flash have been pretty solid for this season so far. So, but first of all, I want to talk about again, easily the best part of this season of Arrow so far, Marno Vu. Still a lot of questions because John talking to Lila about it and her basically saying, yeah, he told me he's the reason why I survived that IED and everybody else didn't, is because I had a purpose. But is that true? Because we saw with Nash Wells, we saw that he thought that Marno Vu had saved him from the possessed that was there trying to attack him, but in reality it was Team Flash that saved him. So is Marno Vu just somebody that takes credit for all of these things, like he is this deity that can save you, but he's actually just taking credit for all this stuff? Is he a false god like Nash was saying he was? And again, it does make me wonder, because Nash is such a skeptical person and because he's thought that he's a false god, would he that easily just be like, oh yes, of course, you saved me, I believe in you now? I don't know. And it really does get me excited to see what they're going to do with this whole story. But Lila in this, we do see a bit more as to why she has gone along with Marno Vu and all that. And I'm glad they finally told us that, because I've been sitting here this whole time going, why is she even helping this guy? To the extent of she's willing to lie to her husband, even though they've really had issues with lying in the past. And so clearly it's something that's going to put a big strain on the relationship. So the fact that he claimed he's the reason why she survived and that she's got a huge role to play and he chose her, I can understand that. Of course, she was still skeptical, but she's starting to see more and more like things are happening the way he's saying. But I still wonder if he has something to do with the way things are going right now. So there's a lot of questions surrounding that, and I'm very excited to finally get some answers during the crisis. Hopefully they do answer those questions, and it's not just we're just supposed to just accept, oh yeah, no, Marno Vu, he's exactly who he says he is. He has done all of this stuff. Even though it's Team Flash that stopped the possess, he allowed Team Flash, yeah. He allowed them to stop it, and so he's still somewhat responsible. I don't know. I hope they have good explanations for what exactly has been going on with him. As far as everything else in this episode, though, it's pretty standard. The Lian Yu stuff was pretty dumb, just as far as like, oh, well, all of these dead come back to life because there's this power on Lian Yu. And the only reason I have an issue with that is, well, then why are these the only dead people that are showing up? Shadow died on Lian Yu. Why isn't she back alive again? Oliver's dad has been dead on Lian Yu forever. Why isn't he back alive? It just seems weird that Lian Yu would just pick and choose who to bring back as ghosts. This Fires guy who honestly it's been a while since I've seen the first and I think it's like the first and second seasons when we see about these guys, and Yao Fei as well. I don't remember really much of any of them. I guess I do remember now that Yao Fei was Shadow's father. But yeah, the fact that it brought back some, but not all, and only like the bad guys and only one good guy, it just seems kind of weird. This whole, it's got power deep in this island, and it actually is Purgatory, and people don't actually die here. But again, some people did die there, and they didn't come back to life, so why is that? So maybe Marno Vu had something to do with that as well, and if so, then I could accept that. But if they're really just going to go with, no, there's this latent power in Lian Yu, and it's the reason why some people were brought back to life, then I'm going to be a little bit more, no, you sort of picked and chose, as the writers of the show, you picked and chose who to bring back. And for me, that's kind of cheating, So that's the only real problem I have with this episode. But everything else, like I said, pretty good, just standard. The everything to do with them being shot out of the sky and sort of having to deal with Roy getting his arm cut off. I mean, obviously, the fact that he was not originally a part of the team and then was brought back, it was nice to see that they really did have a moment of, are you sure you're okay? Because if not, John was saying, if not for me, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have your arm missing right now. But it was nice also to see Roy sort of say, no, I mean, this is what I chose. I chose to be here. I wanted to be a part of this. This is something I have to lose. It's unfortunate. It sucks. I'm not saying I'm happy with it, but it's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make for the team. So it was a really nice moment for Roy, I thought. And then, of course, Oliver having to deal with his kids finding out he's going to die in Crisis. And the different reactions as well, I thought were very natural. Where William, he's a bit more level-headed, so he doesn't want Oliver to die, but he sees the point of it. He sees that this is who his father is. He can't change that. But he's also not going to just waste the time like Mia was, just being angry about him keeping this from them and just being so willing to go die. And, of course, Mia being the rash. It's really funny to me because whenever they started going through this episode and Mia had her little temper tantrum and ran out of the tent, it really hit me. I'm like, she's acting kind of like a teenager, but she's supposed to be in her 20s. I feel like I've seen this before because I have seen this before. It's the exact same thing they did to Nora in the last season of Flash. She was supposed to be like in her mid-20s and adult, but she kept acting like a brash little kid. And she looked younger than 20, but she acted like she was younger than 20. She acted like she was this young, headstrong teen who knew what she was doing, didn't need to take orders from anyone else. She was going to figure it out. She kept jumping into problems without thinking, without learning from her lessons. It's exactly what they've done to Mia, and I don't know why it took me this long to realize this is why I haven't really liked Mia so far, but that's it. She's supposed to be an adult, but she's not acting like one. And don't get me wrong, there are some adults that do act like kids. Totally get that. However, when you write your characters like teenagers and they're supposed to be adults, there's going to be a bit of a disconnect there. There's going to be that feeling of you're not acting like you should be acting right now. And it's going to be frustrating to have to deal with them. So, yeah, I'm not going to lie, just Mia's whole story I've not really connected with. And it's something that, unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be able to fix even in Crisis. We'll see. Maybe they'll do something interesting with her by the end of it. But right now, I'm just not really interested to see how Mia's going to deal with Oliver sacrificing himself and all of this stuff and having to deal with his death. Whereas William, I really am interested to see how he handles everything and what he does after Oliver dies. Does he go back to his own time? I do wonder if all these, I call them future kids, but again, they're not really kids. But all of the kids of our main characters coming from the future, are they going to go back to the future? And if so, are they going to go back to their future, or is the future now going to be changed because of all of these different decisions that the main characters now are going to make based on what they've been told? It seems like Renee is going to be a better mayor. It seems like John and Lila are going to be better parents to JJ and Connor. Maybe bringing them closer together and not pushing them apart. For Felicity and Oliver, obviously he's just told John, hey, make sure Felicity knows don't split up Mia and William. I want them to grow up together. So how's that going to affect them? Are they going to have a better sibling relationship? I don't know. And it's something that I am curious to see. So I'm glad that they've managed to tell an interesting enough story that I want to see how it ends. Because if I'm being honest, if this story was happening 2 seasons ago, or even, really ever since season 2, if this story had been happening ever since then, I probably wouldn't care as much because the writing has just been so bad up until the last couple seasons, which honestly I didn't even know how good the writing was going to be until we get to this point where we see what the future arc has been for, what it's been leading to. So I feel like I've gotten more invested because of that. So I feel like now is probably the best time for it to end. It's going out on a high note. At least I hope. I hope it doesn't end on some crappy oh, what a twist, something along those lines. But it seems like they've done a really good job of building up the crisis and building up to this point to where I am invested and I want to see how it ends, and I'm excited to see how it ends. And I've not been this excited really for Arrow since season 2. So I'm really, really glad that they managed to find that height again. And like I said, go out on a high note. Even if it's maybe a little bit disappointing in the last couple episodes after the crisis, I will at least look back at this first part of the season and say that part was fun, that part get me engaged, and I feel like they really did a good job of getting me excited for this big crisis. So, yeah, we're finally here, finally at the crisis. It's been a lot of build up, a lot of talk about it. So here we go. Woo! But that's it for these 2 episodes. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 2? Let me know, we can talk about and discuss all the good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Arrow and I guess Arrowverse reviews. And I'll see you guys at the crisis. Peace out.